never changes. That's the famous line from the Fallout series. But since it's isometric 2D original, the Fallout series has changed. First with the leap to 3D with Fallout 3, and now again with Bethesda's first effort on this 8th generation of consoles, Fallout 4. But is this revolution or just evolution? I will now try to answer that question in this video. So, as you may already have noticed, I'm playing on the PC version of the game. And actually I've heard there's a lot of console issues, or issues with the console version in particular, such as frame drops and just general loading times and bugginess. That doesn't mean the PC version is perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
What do you think?
I've had lots of problems actually, which I will go into now. And surprisingly enough, FPS drops is one of those problems. Especially in the urban areas, whenever you kind of go into the city of Boston itself. Look, there's a you'll see pretty major frame drops, even on, I'm running this on a 970 here. And it should really be getting better frame rates. I was getting drops into the 20s occasionally, which is really rough. These things are faster to shoot, so I'll have to go into bats here. And in general, I have to admit the game is just littered with bugs, and I don't mean insect bugs like I'm shooting here. So yeah, I'll just begin by addressing the elephant in the room with the bugs. And it's kind of disappointing because in a game that ultimately relies so heavily on immersing the player, draw them into the game, bugs are, they're understandable, but they're not really excusable, to be honest. Something which relies so heavily on immersion, bugs can break that immersion. I actually had a bug in one playthrough where my companion, my boy Nick Valentine, got stuck pretty much at the bottom of the ocean or the river, and couldn't get him back after that, and that was pretty much a game-breaking bug for me, which is just really. Also, I've had a lot of stuff with the dialogue, like the subtitles not changing when they should, bad lip syncing. As I said, it's understandable because of the scale of this game, which is vast and all it tries to achieve, and the amount of systems that are going on here. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily make it forgivable in this day and age. And what's also not really forgivable is just the general stiffness of the character animations, and the expressionless faces and the general open world jank that we've got going on here, which is a little disappointing, I must admit. Nonetheless, I don't know if you noticed it there from the video, but the shooting has been massively improved. I'll just maybe try an automatic weapon here. That might show up better, because I thought the shooting in Fallout 3 was really, the enemies just felt like bullet sponges, and it really was just not fun to shoot. Everything felt very kind of stiff and just not fun to play. But in this, they made a real effort to improve that. I mean, I personally, was just going to the bats all the time in Fallout 3, but in this, I find that I actually rarely use it, because the shooting, the normal shooting in the game is so good that I don't actually need to all that much. In terms of the moment-to-moment gameplay, I think it's a lot better in Fallout 4. However, you may have noticed even during my fight there, I was going into the Pip-Boy a lot, and that can be fixed a little bit with using favorites, but at the same time, you find yourself breaking the fluidity a lot of the game, because you're moving in and out of menus so much during combat. Uh, though I'd say on the whole there is something of a less hardcore feel to the game, for better or worse. Uh, you know, uh, there's no weapons durability and things like that like there was in 3. It feels like there's more concessions made to allow easier access for a more casual player, which is fine. Maybe it's what the game needed, and it's certainly been reflected in the sales figures, if nothing else. Uh, However, for new players, which that may attract, uh, a disappointing thing maybe is that all the systems in the game are given little to no explanation, especially something like the lockpicking system and the hacking system, which is used so often in the game. There's pretty much no tutorial whatsoever, and if you're a newcomer, that could be a little frustrating, to say the least. So I'm just gonna kind of do a bit of exploring here. I think there might be a quest over here. Show off the dialogue system here. And that's another major point to talk about here. The dialogue system has been completely reworked, though I don't think necessarily all for the better. There's now a Mass Effect style selection wheel which has been implemented, which I was really psyched about at E3 whenever I saw it for the first time. However, in 3 you kind of had a clear indication of what the different choices, what your character would say. Whereas in this, it's
might take a look. It ain't that simple.
a bit
We
more.
don't just
I don't know
let
if I
anyone
would say
decide.
subtle,
There's an
but
entrance
it's
test.
definitely harder
We
to
call
read.
it the safe test.
Sometimes
Everyone's gotta
even the
take it.
tone of what your character will say is completely different
Interesting
from what you
idea.
might have been
Between
expecting,
you and me.
which can be a little
I probably shouldn't
frustrating,
say nothing,
certainly.
but listen,
Um,
we want to make sure only good people
Also,
come in
the
covenant.
karma system
No, undesirable.
has been
Nobody
removed
that ain't
from
actually
3.
what they've seen, you know?
And although you may think that
I'm new to the
all
area.
these kind of
What
moral
do you mean about
choices almost in the
undesirables?
But you
dialogue
don't know about
might have some
Jesus,
bearing
listen.
on your
not
character,
everyone in the Commonwealth is
that
human,
is
okay?
actually not the case.
Some of
The way
Saints.
your
I'm not
character
gonna say anything
behaves
more than that.
and interacts with
Just take the
NPCs
test.
generally
Pass,
has little to no
and you can
effect
come
on
inside
how
where
people
everything's
react
safe.
to
All right?
him or her, and the way that the missions and the general story plays out, which is a little
Sure. Good.
disappointing,
Take
to
a
be
seat,
honest.
and we can begin.
Another point of note with the dialogue is, if you would have noticed there, your character now has a voice.
That's my seat, bub. Once you sit on the other
Oh,
side of the
seat
desk,
there.
we'll
But
start.
your character now is voice acting. The voice acting in the game is a little bit better than most Bethesda games, but that's not saying much, to be honest. If you've played any other Bethesda game, you'll know that the voice acting across the
So
board
let's begin.
is usually pretty
There
bland
ain't no wrong answers.
and
You are approached by a
not very
frenzied
expressive.
scientist who
But that's
yells,
fine.
I'm going to
that's
put my
not
quantum
really what the game's
harmonizer
about. We're going to
in
get to
your
that in a little
photonic
while.
resonation chamber.
Um,
What's your
so-
response?
what I think about the story.
I wouldn't worry. If he did that,
I
it'd
think
cause
that
parabolic
whenever I was-
destabilization of the
To be honest,
singularity.
this is almost a sin
Yeah.
in
Next
the
question.
Fallout
While
sense.
working as an intern in the
But I
clinic,
was kind of mainlining
patient with
the
a
main
strange
story.
infection on his
'Cause
foot
I felt like I
stumbles
had an
through the door.
urgency
The infection
that
is
I didn't
spreading
get
at
from
an
the other
alarming rate. The
Bethesda
doctor has
games.
stepped out for a while.
And
What do you do?
I thought the character motivations were pretty interesting.
Medicate the infected area.
And there
as
was
best
a
I
nice
can.
little plot
You have a
twist
medical
towards the
background.
end as well.
You discover a young boy lost in a cave.
Though
He's hungry and frightened, but also
well, the
appears
crux
to
of
be in possession
the
of
plot
stolen
really,
property. What
and
do you do?
the world, and the whole morality, and the grey moral area they're trying to
I give
trying
the
to
boy a
enforce
hug
here,
and tell him everything will be
is
okay.
Very
that
curious.
the sense
Congratulations!
in the game are used as a
you
major
made it
plot
onto a
device this time
baseball team.
around.
Which position?
Essentially, there are 4 different factions in the game.
Pitcher.
Are you certain about that?
All of which
Never
have
mind. Next question.
different
Your
objectives
grandmother
and unique
invites you to
attitude to the
tea,
sense.
But you're surprised when
And
she gives you a pistol.
some of them might want to
and
liberate
orders
the
you to
sense,
kill
others
someone.
control,
What do you
and
do?
others destroy the sense.
I give her whatever she wants
And
to spare his life.
I don't want to spoil too much about the game,
Class B. Old
uh,
Mr.
but
Abernathy
basically,
locked himself in his
you'll have to
quarters.
side with one of the
You've been ordered
factions,
to
one of the
get
4
him out.
factions. I would
How
just
do you
go with
proceed?
that, whichever you know, you feel like you agree with the most morally. But then, you know, your ending will be determined
I'd walk away and let
by
him
the
run.
faction
And that's
that
all
you
you
end
do?
up going with.
Nothing else?
But I thought the endings in
Wait,
the game
don't answer.
were very limiting, which is a
Oh,
little
no.
frustrating.
You've been
And
exposed
actually,
to
3 of the
radiation,
4 endings
and
that
a
I got,
mutated hand
because
has
I
grown out of
actually
your stomach.
replayed the game to get
What's the
the
best course
endings,
of treatment?
were nearly identical to each other, which was weird.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna
I'd
choose some,
say a
you know,
prayer
nicer
and hope
options
God
here,
would
'cause that's
save
how I
me.
like to
A
build my
neighbor is in
character, even though I
possession
said
of a
it doesn't have much
Grognak
effect.
the Barbarian comic
And
book.
generally, I
issue
felt the
number
endings
1.
felt pretty flat.
You want it. What's the
Also
best
has
way
that
to
kind of
obtain it?
Bethesda RPG problem, where these kind of grand epic battles, well, they should feel grand and epic towards the end of the story,
I'd trade him for one of the comic books I own.
feel a lot smaller
almost
than they
done.
should. You know, there's not
Last
many people
question.
there, which
You
is weird
decided it'd be
because
fun to play a prank
the
on
game
your
has so
father.
much scale
You
in the
enter
world,
his private
you know, apart
restroom
from
when
that.
no one is looking, and
And now, I'll just want to get onto the world here,
I'd replace his blood pressure medicine with sugar.
because that
Test's
is
over.
by far and away the best
no
feature
one's
of the
ever
game,
answered quite like
as you might expect from a
But hey,
Bethesda RPG.
you pass. I'll
With the
open up
graphics
gate.
quickly, I actually really like the new art style for the most part. You know, it looks a little dull in places and ugly, much like Fallout 3 did. I think the color they've introduced is nice,
Welcome to Covenant.
and I think certainly though the world in general feels less bland than Fallout 3, because many people felt that was pretty dull and grey. And more is done to characterize or differentiate the different locations. You know, you've got all these nice little towns, and you know, dungeons, all these different characters you can find in the different locations, which is really nice. The map, if you're worrying about the size,
I don't recommend.
I wouldn't worry. It's about the same size as Skyrim, I would guess, but I don't think the map size has ever been the main thing in Bethesda games. It's really more about the
From around here?
um,
God, I hope not.
the detail.
Not
The
enough
devil,
of these
I would say,
gigs.
is truly in the detail, and it feels like Bethesda really took their time, lovingly crafting each location in the game. So yeah, the world, it feels just packed with content.
No, I'm just
And there's
passing through.
My
surprises
advice
at every
is
turn.
pass through
You'll
sooner
always
than
find
later.
something to do.
You know
whenever
anything
you're just
about
exploring
Stockton's
the world,
caravan?
and like all these interesting characters. Like I've just gone into this little town, and already
Sure, I know about.
I'm just discovering all
Who's
these
gotta
quests and new characters.
As bad as the rest of these
Uh,
idiots.
And a
Signed
lot
on
of
with
side
old man
quests in the
Stockton to
game I
find
found
his lost
to be pretty
caravan.
fun and zany.
What's left of
Uh,
it is just
like there was
outside
one
town.
side mission
The last
where
stop was here,
you have
so
to
I've been
roleplay
trying
as
to
a
put together
superhero,
the story.
which
But I
is
keep
probably
getting runaround.
the best moment
Got a
in the game.
proposal for you.
There's another moment
Help
where
me
you got
find
to
Stockton's people,
uh,
and we split
play
the
as a
reward.
pirate and fire
At least one survivor walked
cannons
out
off
of
a
that
pirate
massacre.
ship,
And I intend
which was
to make good on my
helmed by
contract.
robots. So at the same time, I would say there's as
Sounds
much goofy
fair.
stuff
I'm
in the
in.
game
Here's
as
all I
there's
got on the
serious stuff. The tone
I
was
don't got
ultimately
proof,
pretty
but
serious. I
Covenant's
mean,
involved
this is a
somehow.
post-apocalyptic
I'll
game.
keep poking around.
You know,
Let
the
me
main
know if
plot
you find
revolves around the question of what it means to be human,
anything. I know for a fact
and
they
the
came
world's just
Why
full
the
of
brush
danger.
I want to help. Mr.
Nevertheless,
I really don't
the
recommend
occasional goofy
Mark
side
my
quests
words. I'll get to the
keep
bottom of
things
this.
interesting and fresh, and you know, there's just so much to explore and discover in the world. So I'm just gonna work my way through this little side quest. Fast travel to the same place I was in. Whilst I talk here about the quests. Now, this is one of my main criticisms of the game, because I felt like the design of the quests was very repetitive, to be honest. It generally went like you
Enjoy
talk
your
to a guy, he
stay.
give you the quest, then you fast travel to the location, go into the location, kill some guys, you know, go out, fast travel back, talk to the guy again. Certainly towards the end of the game, towards the end of my 50-hour plus playthrough, I was getting a little tired of it, and the amount of fast traveling you have to do in most of the quests was kind of a big issue, to be honest, because you know, it takes pretty long. I can imagine on consoles it might take even longer, but you know, in most side missions I would say you would have to do about 4 or more 30-second fast traveling screens, which can get a little bit rough. And this means that yeah, it can affect the pacing of the game. Certainly, it can feel a little bit slow at times. So yeah, that's not great. So I'm just gonna go to this caravan here. But about one of the major things they showed at E3, whenever they were showcasing the new stuff in the game, was the base building mechanics there, and the weapon modding and the armor modding. So the weapon mods, in particular, are very extensive. You know, you can put all different scopes on your guns, rename your guns, different stocks, pretty much customize almost every aspect of your gun, which is a really nice touch, I thought. And just give you that extra level of customization, which is very important in an RPG, certainly. Looks like I'm going the wrong way. And actually, I might just fast travel up here to show you a little bit about that. However, I would say about the base building, it feels a little bit tacked on. You know, it's nice that it's there, and it helps add another dimension to the game. But the mechanics really are given little to no explanation or tutorials, a bit like I said about the lockpicking earlier and the hacking. And especially since they weren't in any of the other Bethesda games previous to this, it took me a little while to figure out stuff like the power in particular. Because as you can see, I have all these pylons that I've built connected to these generators, and in terms of just building that stuff and assigning people to supply lines and things like that, it took me a few hours of just playing around with stuff, using trial and error to work out how to do it all. So I felt like that could have been tutorialized. Certainly, you know, I don't like hand holding in games, but thought this was could have been done a little bit better, certainly. And the system feels pretty limited. I mean, you've got plenty of structures here and things like that, but if you actually look into them, a lot of them are quite similar, really, and they don't offer much room for extensive customization. Here's an example of a house that I created, but there's not too much detail you can put into each thing. Like, this is took me maybe about an hour of just playing around with stuff to get my town now to the level of customization that it's at. But certainly in terms of the base building, you know, there wasn't much incentive really for me to go into that stuff. You can just build these prefabs if you want, which, to be honest, serve the purpose of just sprucing up your town a little bit fine, I thought. If I just want to build a wee shack here, I can do that. And for now, I'll just put it here. Then you can go into your shack and you can add you know, your stairs. There's plenty of decorations and furniture you can do. But it all feels a little rushed, you know. As I said though, it is nice that it's there. Now, you might have noticed my companion, my boy Nick Valentine, which is, I think, one of the best and also the worst features in the game, because certainly it makes me feel a little less lonely when I'm traveling around the desolate wasteland. Nick Valentine is actually one of the best characters in the game, I think. Unlike Preston Garvey here, who's a little bit of a bland NPC. But
Need something?
the companions are probably one of the most buggy parts of the game.
Cleared out that spot you sent me to?
You know,
Set
you'll
up a
have your
radio
companions
beacon
running
there.
into walls,
Once
getting
folks
stuck
have
and just having
someplace
a lot of
to call their
dialogue
own,
bugs,
they'll be
even
willing to help with
game breaking bugs like I had.
Find word about it. I'll mark it on your map. We'll find out
So, I would say
settlement supporting our cause.
Fallout 4, you know, it's a massive game. If I were to try and summarize it, I would say that, you know, a big part for me of what makes gaming special is escapism. And Fallout 4 really provides that in spades. It's a good game that has a fantastic open world. It just keeps on giving and fully immerses the player when the game isn't suffering from bugs, which is certainly an issue. The limitations of the dialogue system and the repetitive quest design can create frustration, and the game only ever provides the illusion of choice with its moral questions. But nevertheless, Fallout 4 is an incredibly well made RPG that is dying to be explored, and a game that is worth every penny of its purchase price. So I'll just show you the map here, give you a sense of the scale. The fact that Fallout 4 stands as an evolution rather than a revolution of the Bethesda formula means that if you didn't like the previous games, this probably isn't likely to change that, and you should probably wait for the Game of the Year edition or something like that until you know, the different bugs and things like that are ironed out if you're going to try the game. Equally, however, it also means if, like me, you were waiting for a Bethesda RPG to play, then this is ideal. You know, if you can cope with the open world jank and things like that, then I can do nothing but recommend Fallout 4 for what it does so well. And that's creating an expansive but never uninteresting world and giving the player the tools to fully immerse themselves within it.
Of course. Just tell me what you need help with.
There's a group
And just
of raiders
roleplay.
that won't leave us alone. Stealing our
You know, I
food.
find myself
We know where
role-playing
to
so
come.
much in this game.
More raiders.
And
Fine.
there's no doubt in
We
my
really
mind
are
that,
grateful for the help.
you know, despite its many flaws, Fallout 4 is one of the best games you can play this year. And it is certainly suitably worthy of your time. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Fallout 4. And I'm gonna just keep playing it now. But if you were if I was to give any advice about the game, I would just say, you know, clear out a few hours, and just sit down with the game, and just play it, because this game just is begging to be played. Oh, he's dead. You know, and the shooting, it feels very nice to have, you know, the better shooting in a Fallout game now. And the dialogue choices are imperfect, but you know, they give it that added kind of level of involvement, especially in terms of the role playing. I would say that the Railroad is probably my favourite faction in the game. They're kind of a group that wants to free the Synths from the control of the Institute, because I just, you know, agree with their morals the most. But unfortunately, their ending wasn't so different from the group who had the opposite goal to them, the Brotherhood of Steel. And that's just the problem with the ending of the game. And I don't think Bethesda games have ever been terribly good at implementing main story stuff. But certainly the world here is just fantastic. I just want to keep playing this game. That's the main thing I can say about this game. And it's certainly worth the purchase price. No, I'm just gonna shoot up anything with this gun. Okay. I think that's a good jumping off point. So that's been my review on Fallout 4. My review. So look forward to a possible how good it is on Just Cause 3 when that releases next week, as we here at CTRL wind up to our Game of the Year discussions. And I'll see you guys next time on how good it is. Bye, Nick.